In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a VPC. What is a VPC? VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, and it allows you to logically isolate your network for your resources. And the resources that they're talking about exist in a region. If we look at this diagram, but if we remember what a region is, around the world we have clusters of data centers. And currently, AWS has 36 regions in operation. In North America, we have uh, two in Canada, and the government cloud that's on the East Coast. We have US East 1 in Northern Virginia, Ohio, US East 2, another government cloud on the West Coast, and we have US West 1 and US West 2 in Oregon. The last one we have in North America was just launched a couple months ago in Mexico. And this is our North America footprint. And in South America, there is Brazil and coming soon Chile. In each map, you can see that AWS has regions. Now, inside each region, we have availability zones. There's 114 within these 36 regions. An availability zone is Amazon's way of saying a data center, a massive data center, with security, fences, cameras, biometric identification in order to get into it. Each data center is also 50 miles apart from another. So if one availability zone goes down, you can have your data um, pick up and usable in another availability zone within the region. Every region has at least two availability zones. And in the US East 1 Virginia region, actually, there are six availability zones. So the availability zones allow for redundancy. Data transfer between availability zones is free. However, if you send data from one region to another region, then AWS is going to charge you for that. All right. But when you're creating our own virtual private cloud, our own cloud, we can do it within a region and determine how many availability zones we want to operate in. Okay. For more definitions about this, we can see AWS page, their definition of regions, availability zones, and services. And there are over 300 services and growing inside of AWS. And remember that there's not a full coverage of every service. So in every region. So you have to check that if for particular services that may not be available. All the core ones will be in every region, but say, well, I don't know, try to pick something that's not as popular. I can't see anything right off the top of my head. That looks like all these services would be covered in every region. But suffice it to say, always check. Let's get to creating our VPC. Now, a VPC is available in every region, and by default, you get a VPC. In this account, it's been restricted because it's a Vocarium Lab account, and so it only supports one region. But if you were in a regular AWS account, you would see ones across the board here, and those would be representing all of your default VPCs. And so let's take a look at this one. So our default VPC is composed of, we can show this nice map. So here's the name of the VPC, and here are our subnets for it, and there are six. And for US East 1A, we have attached to the route table. The route table defines how traffic will be handled inside of your VPC, whether you want to access the internet or other resources in AWS, or um, or just locally inside your VPC itself. Additionally, you can do VPC peering between AWS accounts. In this account, if I wanted to share data with another company, I could use VPC peering to establish that. So, and then this IGW stands for Internet Gateway, and then this is how we're getting access to the World Wide Web. So let's get started by creating a VPC, and I'm going to click on this button here, and I'm going to choose VPC and more because it automates many capabilities that we're trying to do. So firstly, I'll give it a name. We'll call this a, um, a nouveau, uh, uh, and then that's going to add to our name here. And our CIDR block shows how many IP addresses we want to be accessible. Obviously, the lower the number is, the more IP addresses will be as part of our VPC. But we can lower this if we want to say like 20. And we see how the number of IP addresses drops significantly, or we can even go further, and there's only 16 IPs, so that's not enough, or probably not enough. We'll see. I'm going to just go back to the 16 to use this full range. Tenancy stands for whether or not you want to allow your VPC to be on the same hardware as other AWS clients. If you don't want that, then you can choose to have dedicated hardware, so you're not a common tenant with another VPC. So we're going to leave that as default because we don't want to have extra charges. And here's how many availability zones we want to operate in. So we have a choice of 1, 2, or 3, and we can see if we make a selection that we now are just operating in 1A. And then if we have 2, then we've added 1B, and 3, now we got 1C. Okay, and I'm just going to set this back to 2, and now we can choose our subnets or subnetworks. So the public subnets are the ones that have ready access to the internet, whereas the private subnets, if we want to isolate, say, a database running inside of one of our instances, then we would put that in the private subnet. However, if we needed for some reason to give access to the internet, we would have to attach a NAT gateway to a private subnet to allow for it to communicate out to the internet. All right, so we can review this information here, where we've got now 4 subnets, 2 and 2. And if, like I said, if I drop this back down to 0, then we can see we've just got our private subnets is, and then here's the IP address range for that. And, or if I drop the private ones, then here's the public range. So just keep in mind which ones are your public range, like 10.0.0 or 10.0.0.16. Now, if you want to do VPC peering with another account, then you're probably going to want to change these numbers, because if we stick with the defaults, it's more likely to have a collision with another address block that you're trying to connect with. So we could change maybe this number here to be 10.0. Just add here like a 1 over here and add a 1 over there, and then we could have to make sure that we're isolated from the others. So I'll do the same thing over here. 1 and 1. Oops. And then I'll probably have to do the same thing up there as well. Okay. And we should be fine. Now, for the NAT gateway, it's like we want to put it in 1 per availability zone. So for these 2 private subnets, then we have, it'll automatically do that for us. And this VPC endpoint, this is so that we can access S3 without going to the internet. So it's just an easy way of doing that, and it'll be safer that way. If we want to add a website domain name, then we're going to need to check these options. And now I'm going to click, actually, let's take a look at this preview code button. And then now these are all the command line uh, commands in order to perform this infrastructure setup. So now I'm just going to download this, save it for later, and now I click create VPC, and we're going to see it work. Creating the NAT table will take a little while to activate, so we're just going to sit here and wait. This will probably take like 2 or 3 minutes. So let's see what else we can cover in the meantime. Global infrastructure. What is it? All right. Okay, let's take a closer look at this diagram. So we know we're operating in US East 1. We have our virtual private cloud. We've got two subnets. So we got the first one, so 1A, then we have the second one, 1B. We don't have a third one. Uh, and then the instances that we can deploy, we could do EC2, we could do Lambda functions, we could also do containers like Docker or Kubernetes. So all of those would be valid instances. Okay, and let's see. There are 4 ways that we can work with the VPCs. The first way that we're doing right now is using the console. The second way is using the command line interface. So we see, well, the file that we downloaded. We could use that if we wanted to. If we So this right here is the command line instructions for the infrastructure that we did by through the console. So we could actually say open up the Cloud Shell here, and then run each one of these commands and do the exact same thing that our console is doing. All right, but let's just wait. Oh, okay, looks good. Looks good. Come back. Now let's view the VPC, and here is our resource map for it. We're VPC. We have our route table on the public side that gets access to the internet, and then we have our second public route table, and we have our private one, and we can see how the private route table has access to the VPC for S3, and here's the other private one, the same thing. And here's the NAT gateway, so any instances that are placed inside the private subnet can get access to the internet this way. Right. Okay, and let's take a closer look at this resource. There it is. So in the route table, we've got these two subnets, and they're getting access to the US. Where is it? Oh, here it is. And let's come back here, and let's take a closer look at this one, the private route table. So this is the one that's going to S3, and this is saying getting access to the whole wide internet 0.0.0/0. This is the public internet, and this is the NAT gateway that's been attached to it, and this is the CIDR block that gets us access to everything that's inside our local world, which is our VPC. And then come back on this side, and the public one, we can see our routes. So here's our access to the World Wide Web using the Internet Gateway. That's right there. And similarly, here's. So if we come back over to, okay, we want to, now if we want to make a change in our route tables, we can do edit routes and say add an additional route. And then we can do that here, what type of route we want to create or access, and then where our destination is going to be. Let's see, say a peering connection between another AWS account or to another region. And then here's the Internet Gateway. We want to go to a load balancers or something. All right, let's cancel on that. And okay, and that's it. So if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right, thank you.